Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you have had a great Thanksgiving break. Of course, here on Computer America, we were gone for a couple days there, and of course, we're hitting it. We're hitting it back here on Monday. Everyone, again, hopefully Thanksgiving went really well for you, and just kind of a personal thing. I hope that everyone was able to stay out of the stores on Black Friday because online shopping is dominating. So we have a lot to unpack here on today. Obviously, not being on the show for a couple days there means that we have extra computer and technology news, which is why today we will be dedicating the entire show, both first and second segments, to computer and technology news. And of course, you can find that here at Computer America. So let's see. Why don't we go ahead and just get started? Oh, actually, before we get started, a couple of things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find anything and everything having to do with Computer America, be that articles, reviews, show notes, our link to our guest website when we have a guest, all that and more at computeramerica.com. Definitely check that out for the latest and greatest what's going on here. Also, be sure to check out the live video stream, which can also be found at twitch.tv/Computer America. And last but not least, check out our social media contest. Now, all that being said, I want to go ahead and get things started here with computer and technology news, because like I said, we have well over a dozen different stories, and odds are we're probably not going to get to them all. So here we go, computer and technology news. All right, why don't we, let's see. So lots of good stories here. Let's pick out something interesting here to start things off with. Let's talk about, that's a bit silly. You know what? Cyber Monday. Why not? Today is indeed Cyber Monday, the Monday after Black Friday, the one that everyone hypes up as going to be the best time to buy certain products, and some of those products indeed include things that we talk about here on the show, including laptops, technologies, television. I hear that those were big parts of what was being purchased out there on Black Friday. Now, Cyber Monday, looking to smash records. And I'm sure that you've heard this, but this seems like a good article from CNET that goes over the numbers, and the numbers are always fascinating because it shows not just not just in a very narrow sense, what people were shopping for, but in a very broad sense, how much they are willing to spend. And the idea of shopping online, having it delivered to your door, is becoming ever more popular. And indeed, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago that it surpassed and has yet to be unsurpassed, or at least resurpassed, whatever. Something about a surpass. But Cyber Monday has become bigger than Black Friday. It's or at least I should say, online shopping has become bigger than in-person in-store shopping, and for a lot of reasons. Convenience and the fact that you can fit 10,000 shoppers into your online retail space, but you can't fit 10,000 shoppers into each individual brick and mortar location. So for all those reasons, that's why we have this article here from CNET saying Cyber Monday projected to break records with $7.8 billion in online sales. Let that number sink in. $7.8 billion in online sales. That is crazy. I hope you guys have been, getting some good deals, because they said that as of 7 a.m. Pacific time on Monday, online shoppers have spent about $531 million. And they said that, and that is according to Adobe Analytics. They said that Adobe expects Cyber Monday to grow 17.6% year over year to $7.8 billion. And of course, that number is going to fluctuate as it actually happens, but odds are it's going to be somewhere close to that. Now, online spending in the US has hit a new high on Black Friday and Thanksgiving Day. Online sales for Black Friday reached $6.22 billion in the US. Oh, and that is, of course, 24% over the year before. Now, it's just crazy. I mean, in 2017, Black Friday shoppers spent about $5 billion online, so obviously a very sizable jump there, about 20%. What these numbers mean. So these numbers, to me, it really shows that there were some in-person stores always had this thing with door dashes, door deals, whatever things. Let's say they had 4 televisions that they were selling for $100 each that were normally $500. Those are the ones that you see advertised in the big print saying, hey, join us for Black Friday and you can buy a television for, pennies on the dollar compared to what you normally buy. They would only have about 4 of those in stock. The really attractive stuff, they would get you to the store, run out of them immediately, and then, of course, they would hope that everyone else who didn't get one would stick around and at least buy one of the other models for 10% off, 15, 20% off, and they would still make a sizable profit, and they would be able to move a lot of product. I think over this year in particular, I don't know what it is, but it has become very commercialized. Really, to me, it showed when we went shopping for Halloween candy, and they were already setting up the Christmas trees and the Christmas decorations and trying to get people into the holiday spirit, where we were shopping for our stuff. And we were like, man, come on, give Halloween a chance. And what it really showed, to me at least, is that having these deals is one thing, but being able to commercialize the holidays, the more that they get you in the Christmas spirit, the more that they'll of course, you'll start to think about buying gifts for friends and family. You'll start to look for deals on things that you've been putting off all year. Maybe a new laptop, maybe a new, maybe a new tablet, maybe a new television. One of these things is going to be on your quote unquote holiday shopping list. Well, it used to be confined to Black Friday and more recently, Cyber Monday. That's changing. And this is kind of, this is sort of just, kind of personal and anecdotal, but I will say that deals have been going on all month long, and they will continuing, many of them advertising that they will continue through the end of the year, all the way through until December. These numbers are shattering records, but don't be surprised when they come out with the final numbers and they start to include the entire month of November and the entire month of December as pseudo Black Friday, Cyber Monday, online shopping, retail numbers. It's just going to be one of those holiday seasons where I guess the economy is going well, everyone's advertising like crazy, and everyone wants their chunk of all this money that consumers are spending. So, continuing on with the article, Adobe said about 33% of online sales the Friday after Thanksgiving came from mobile devices, and that's up from 29%. So more of you are more than happy to shop on your phones. That's something very interesting. They said that Black Friday was also the first ever day to see more than $2 billion in sales coming from phones alone. So phones, of course, becoming a very popular way to shop. Let's see. So there's that. Laptops and streaming devices such as Roku, Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV were the top selling products on Black Friday. And top selling video games include Let's Go Pikachu, Red Dead Redemption 2, and God of War. Not bad. There's not really too much here that we need to go over more. It was just kind of a interesting way because today is the day that it's happening, so I wanted to bring it up. And I thought the numbers were, of course, very striking. Showed that not only were people spending more, but they're more than happy to do it on a variety of devices. It really doesn't matter if it's on phone, laptop, in store. As long as there's a deal, or at least as long as they think there's a deal, then, it doesn't have to be Cyber Monday. It doesn't have to be Black Friday for people to go out and do some of their shopping. So there's that story. Why don't we go ahead and move on to some of these others? Now, not everything is, of course, kind of all hunky-dory. Why don't we talk about GM? Speaking of not hunky-dory. GM, General Motors, they have a problem on their hands. And I guess the way that they're dealing with it, or at least what they're expecting to be a problem, they're making some preemptive cuts. So GM, this coming from Reuters, saying that they will slash jobs and production as U.S. sedans sales sink, which always happens when the economy does better. Everyone wants one of those big SUVs. Everyone wants one of those big trucks, and more compact, more fuel efficient, more affordable models start to not be as attractive. But I digress. Now, they said that General Motors Company said on Monday that it will cut production of slow-selling models and slash its new North America workforce in the face of a declining market for traditional gas-powered sedans, shifting more investment to electrical and autonomous vehicles. Which is, hey, as a tech show, that's what we like to hear. More electric, more autonomy. Let's see. So they said that GM's actions add up to the biggest restructuring for the U.S. number one car maker since the bankruptcy about a decade ago. They said that the U.S. automaker have enjoyed nearly a decade of prosperity since the 2008 financial crisis, as well as with the financial bailouts from the government back during the recession. Now, GM and its rivals are facing rising bills for technological transformation, increased risk from trade policy, and investors reluctant to fund their traditional product strategies. Let's see. So they said that Ohio will be a key state, blah, blah. So they said Barr on Monday portrayed the decision to put 5 North America factories on notice for potential closure and cut nearly 15,000 jobs as necessary to keep the company strong as it plows money into new technology and new businesses such as robo-taxi services. And by the way, that's not just something that GM is looking for. That's also something that that many other car companies are doing, including the likes of Mercedes, where it's not just enough to have a car, but it has to have some kind of pseudo-intelligence inside of it. And then that intelligence is also going to be kind of a quote-unquote service where the idea, it used to be, hey, we'll parallel park for you. We'll let you know when someone's in your blind spot. But the intelligence in cars now is turning into, we'll take your data. We'll direct you to a gas station that we recommend. We will rent your car out to other people and earn you money while you are not using your car. Things like this. Really, those are the innovations that they're talking about, where a car is not simply a vehicle, a car is a service. That's what investors are hoping these car companies do. Now, GM shares rose as much as 8% following the announcement. Hey, figures, you're going to make some drastic cuts and your shares rise. They said that GM plans to halt production next year of 3 assembly plants. And of course, that means a number of models will no longer be built, including the Chevy Cruze, the Chevy Volt, and the Cadillac CT6 and the Buick LaCrosse. All those are either on the chopping block or they are unfortunately not looking too good. So let's see. So plants in Baltimore, Maryland, and suburban Detroit community of Warren, both of which make powertrain components, have no product assigned to them after 2019 and are at risk for closure. Let's see. So yeah, I think we're going to stop there because it does seem to go in further. But the big point here is that GM is, I guess GM as a company is hoping to invest in what they see as the right move for the future. And that means, like they said, more electric cars, more technology within cars, and then on top of that, a smaller, more defined market share. So if they can produce the trucks and if they can produce the electric vehicles of tomorrow, then they're going to do that, and they're going to be happy to do that without all of the extra employees. And unfortunately, 15,000 people, that's a lot of good jobs. So not something you like hearing about, but definitely have to report on that. Now, I think before we go any further, NASA, if you're listening, I apologize. I should have come out and said it earlier. Congratulations to NASA. That's right. And if you're listening, you may be wondering why. What the heck did NASA do? Here's what the heck NASA did. NASA has successfully landed, and this about an hour before we did the show here, has successfully landed the, it's their NASA Insights, which I think is a rover, or might just be a testing unit. We'll find out. But anyways, NASA had a successful launch of one of their landers and landed on Mars. So that was very, very cool. And another cool part is that they actually live streamed the whole event. It was very well produced. They even had commentators. They had views of the of the command center. Very kind of lunar lander-ish kind of vibe to the live stream. But it was very cool to see. I think they even had it up on the big screen in Times Square. So NASA's InSight successfully lands on Mars after 7 minutes of terror. 7 minutes of terror, of course, being in quotes. They said that NASA's latest Mars lander, InSight, successfully touched down on the surface of the red planet this afternoon, surviving an intense plunge through the Martian atmosphere. It marks the 8th picture-perfect landing on Mars for NASA, adding to the space agency's impressive track record of putting spacecrafts on the planet. Hey, NASA, they're good at what they do. Because let's face it, they are rocket scientists. And now, in InSights, which again is the name of the craft, 2-year mission has begun, one that entails listening for Marsquakes to learn about the world's interior. Because we've been so focused on the surface of Mars. I guess now it's time to look inward, not just at Mars, but at ourselves. What does it mean? I don't know. But after 6.5 months of traveling through space, InSight hit the top of Mars' atmosphere a little before 3 p.m. Eastern. And then it made a daring descent to the surface, which, as we said, already went well. But it was very, very cool to see it go from 12,000 miles per hour to just 5 miles per hour before it hit the ground. Make sure you let those numbers sink in. 12,000 miles per hour. I'm pretty sure your average commercial airline goes about 600 miles an hour, and that's probably about as fast as anyone's, as most people listening to the show are going to go. Is about 600 to 800 miles per hour. This thing is going 12,000, hurling through space, and makes a very, very clean descent. So they said to get to the surface safely, InSight had to autonomously deploy a supersonic parachute, gather radar measurements, and ignite its thrusters all at the right time. And together, the landing took just under 7 minutes, which of course prompted the nickname 7 Minutes of Terror. And during the plunge, 2 tiny spacecrafts above Mars gathered data for the entire event, and the pair of probes are known as the Marco satellites. Let's see. So the 2 satellites, which are modified CubeSats, a type of standardized spacecraft. Let's see. So skipping forward here a little bit, just because it's cool. And by the way, I definitely recommend everyone go out there and check out the live stream of when this actually happened. And it's cool, by the way, that we can actually join NASA for these kinds of missions. But they said that NASA engineers in mission control applauded at each stage from when the landing occurred. Toward the end, a flight controller listed off the descending altitudes of InSight until confirming that it was indeed on the surface and they had touchdown. There's still more data about the landing that's coming NASA's way. The space agency's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is in orbit around Mars, observed the entire event from space and will send the information to Earth in about 3 hours. So, hey, the magic of long distances. That's still waiting for. We're still waiting for that, but it will be here shortly. They said that while on the surface of Mars, InSight will stay very still so that it can measure the tiny wobbles of the planet during Marsquakes, which, everyone, if you're not familiar, Marsquakes, of course, being earthquakes, but in Mars. Makes sense. Using the sound waves from these events to figure out what the planet's interior is made of. Over the next 2 to 3 months, InSight will use a robotic arm to deploy 2 primary instruments. A seismometer and a self-hammering nail. The seismometer will listen for the quakes, while the nail will drill almost 16 feet under the crust to measure Mars' internal temperature. My guess is, pretty hot. But in the months ahead, InSight should uncover the deeper knowledge of Mars' interior than we've ever had before. So again, the cool thing here was that you could indeed watch this happen live from the NASA control room. Very, very cool. And again, congratulations to NASA. There's that one. Man, this break is coming up fast. We have time for about one more story. How about a freaky story? As if landing robots on another planet wasn't freaky enough. And by the way, I'm happy that people were happy to hear about that. But check out this story. This has a twist because it was announced, and then a couple hours later, a second announcement came, and that's what we are reporting on. MIT Technology Review saying that the Chinese scientist who claimed he made a CRISPR baby or CRISPR babies is under investigation. That's right. So some quick background, and then we'll get to the article. Actually, the article seems like it does a pretty good job, so we'll just go with the article. And again, this one from MIT Technology Review, and Antonio, I have to say his name now because I stuttered on it. Regalado. Hopefully, I didn't butcher that too bad. They said, and of course, again, the scientist claims he made CRISPR babies is under investigation. He says he created twin girls using whose genes were edited to make them resistant to HIV. And of course, the question is, was that ethical or even legal? And let's see. So, yeah, going on with the story, Chinese researcher who claimed to have created the first gene-edited babies. And this is Mr. He Jiankui I apologize beforehand, of the Southern University of Science and Technology in Shenzhen, which is China, is now facing investigation over whether these experiments broke Chinese law or regulation. That's the big question. Where on Sunday, MIT Technology Review was the first to disclose a secretive project in China to produce children whose genomes had been modified to make them resistant to HIV. Now, here's the thing. It's of course a very good thing to be resistant to HIV. CRISPR as a technology, just so everyone isn't completely in the dark, if you have never heard of CRISPR. By the way, if you want to look it up on your own, it's pronounced CRISPR. It's a long acronym, but essentially what it means is that scientists can use CRISPR, the technology, to edit people's genes and essentially take little cuts out of someone's genome, and they can change it to whatever they want. They can essentially make people taller, or at least these are the promises that that CRISPR has, is that they can make them immune to diseases that had no known cures before. They could make them taller. They could make them stronger, faster, better. They could make a person on the genetic level the best version of a person can be. Now, here's the thing. It's a very recent technology. It's a very recent technology, and yeah, next they'll be shooting laser from their hands or something. That's kind of the problem, is that while we can look at DNA and we can say that this segment does this, or editing this has this kind of reaction, there's a lot of genome in DNA that we really don't know what it does. We think it's junk. It doesn't have, when you edit it or cut it out, it really doesn't have any kind of noticeable consequences. But hey, it could be there for a reason. And when you start to edit things with CRISPR, I mean, it's one thing to use CRISPR to genetically modify, let's say certain strains of wheat to make them hardier to grow in more drought-resistant places. It's one thing to edit your food. It's one thing to edit plants. It's an entirely different ethical conundrum to subject babies to, or at least unborn babies who were then born with CRISPR, with the hopes of having one intended consequence without doing your due diligence, and they could potentially be born with any number of unforeseen consequences, including, of course, maybe lasers from the hands, although I doubt that. But it could be, you're right, just something as superficial as, I want babies with blue eyes, so we're going to use CRISPR to insert the gene for blue eyes. And next thing you know, they could have some sort of horrible disease that they would not have been predisposed to before. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of mystery. But now we have a situation where he claims to have done this. And that's the thing, is that this happened in China. China, of course, I guess not on the human rights, the good side of human rights. So maybe they would be, kind of crazy enough to attempt something like this without further testing. But the one who claims to have done it is now suspended without pay because, hey, I guess at least to the outside community, they're making it look like he went rogue and did this by himself. So he said that the claim set off a wave of criticism in China and abroad from experts who said that the experiment created unacceptable risk for a questionable medical purpose. And he said that one of the inventors of CRISPR called for a moratorium on its use in editing embryos for in vitro fertilization procedures. And yeah, again, that was one of the inventors of CRISPR saying that this should not be used on people just yet. We're still figuring out, again, it holds a lot of promise, but we still have to be very, very careful. They said that documents connected to the trial named the study sponsor as he, along with another scientist, and it was approved by the ethics committee at the Harmony Care Shenzhen Women and Children's Hospital. I can't imagine what woman would have been completely okay with the first ever procedure like this being done on their kids. But here we are. On Sunday, they said it would begin an investigation of He's research and release a statement saying that Harmony Care, according to our findings, never conducted the appropriate reporting according to requirements. Clearly, there was a breakdown in communication here. And he said that the former medical director of the private hospital told the Southern Capital News he had no recollection of approving He's research while he was on its ethics committee. If nothing else, this sounds like a situation where maybe the doctor wasn't being explicitly clear on what he was going to do, this is a big risk. Like there are probably situations that without technologies like CRISPR, a baby would not survive to be born. You can make an ethical argument that it's this or nothing. That's not the case that they had here. He had done this to 2 perfectly healthy embryos and was trying something that he felt probably needed to be tried. It's definitely very, very risky, and hey, I think we all knew it was coming, but to see it actually happen, very, very strange. So everyone, we'll be right back. More computer and technology news right after this, and yeah, be right back. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show, 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And of course, we are doing computer and technology news. If you missed any part of today's show, check us out wherever podcasts are heard, Computer America, just search that and you will, of course, find us. Now, we're going to wrap up the story here. We're going to talk about the consequences and then wrap up. But the last 2 paragraphs here are saying that separately, a group of 122 Chinese academics and scientists put out a statement condemning the research and saying that they need the authorities to establish a legal governance over gene editing, saying that this presents a major blow to the image and development of Chinese life sciences on the global stage. It is extremely unfair for the many honest and sincere scholars working to adhere to moral practices in the sciences. And in the video where, I guess the doctor who did the gene editing using CRISPR, he put out a video saying that he presented himself as a willing martyr to some higher cause, saying, quote, "I understand my work should be controversial, but families need this technology and I am willing to take the criticism." Unfortunately, we do have these things called ethics. And I say unfortunately sarcastically because very fortunately we have things, there's a reason that we don't say, it'd be interesting to see the effects of if we locked a child in his development years, if we locked him in a metal crate with no windows, no doors, kept him alive on the barest essential nutrients, and then see if he, see what happens to his brain. Ethics are very important in medicine. and make sure that, while yes, the ultimate goal is knowledge, and you could certainly gain a lot of knowledge if you threw out ethics, if you want to check out the research that happened in the early 1900s, especially here in the U.S., very, very horrific stuff was happened in the name of science. But we've come a long way, and randomly picking two babies to try this technology out on just because you feel like, hey, I need to do this some way, this is not the right way to go. So I'm glad that a lot of scientists are condemning this. Yes, CRISPR is probably a technology of the future. Yes, it will probably revolutionize medicine as we know it. But that doesn't mean you go in head first and just ignore the value of human life. So that one was freaky. That was a very freaky story. Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and lots of different stories here. How about this one? This one seems pretty cool. Wearable technology. You've seen it. You've seen someone talking to themselves, and you're like, wow, that person's weird. Usually it's a woman with long hair, and you go, man, she sure is enjoying talking to herself. And then come to find out she's wearing a Bluetooth earpiece. It's like, oh, okay, so she's not crazy. I'm just gullible. Check out this piece of wearable technology. Maybe if you see someone with no headphones in, no audio coming to your ears saying that, hey, whatever, but then they're singing along, they're, dancing to their own groove, you say, what the heck is going on there? This might be it. This from Ars Technica, Ms. Jennifer Ouellette, saying that a new wearable tech lets users listen to live music through their skin. That's right. And they say that this was inspired by deaf fans of live concerts to help them, quote unquote, feel the music. This could be really cool. So, pretty long article. We're not going to be able to get to it all, but I wanted to get the idea out there, saying that back in September, 200 music fans gathered at the Bunkhouse Saloon in downtown Las Vegas for a private live concert with a unique twist, saying that several of the fans were deaf, hard of hearing. The concert served as a beta test for a new wearable technology that allows deaf and hearing users alike to experience musical vibrations through their skin for a true surround body experience. Makes perfect sense. They said that the tech is called Music, and need a story with kittens and you. Yeah, we're going to work on that one. So they said that the tech is called Music Not Impossible. And it's a brainchild of former Hollywood producer turned entrepreneur Mick Ebeling, founder and CEO of Not Impossible Labs. I guess his Not Impossible was to let people with hearing impairment actually enjoy live concerts. He said that it interfaces directly with the venue sound system and sends electrical pulses, which coordinate with colored LEDs, corresponding to various tracks in the music to the sensors against the skin. They said that Lady Gaga, Hans Zimmer, and Pharrell are fans, with the latter declaring that he had felt the future when trying Music Not Impossible. The Las Vegas show was presented by Zappos, so here's the main point of this. This is a quote from the director of technology from Not Impossible Labs, saying that, quote, "We're not trying to replace music. We're trying to provide an experience that relates to music. It's less a new technology and more a new form of expression that, instead of going through the ears, goes through the skin. And when you feel it, you understand it." Which I'm kind of wondering, could this be used exclusively for people with hearing impairment? Obviously, they giving something to them for, to listen to at a concert, you want to be as inclusive as you can with any large venue like that. And you would think taking a deaf person to hear live music would be, kind of the last place that you would want to take them. I mean, hey, go watch a movie. But even so, being able to take them, have them be included, and give them a device such as this, not saying that this was kind of a trial concert that they went to, but much like, much like glasses that show subtitles during a movie or any other kind of accessibility technology that is available to customers, this seems like a very, very cool one. So if you're watching the video portion, you can see a picture here of a gentleman wearing it. It's right there on his wrist, and then it, it runs up his forearm, and it will send electrical pulses through his skin so that he can hear. Let's see. So the author says he checked it out himself. The first electrical pulse was a bit of a jolt, but he adjusted the intensity and soon got accustomed to the strange buzzing sensation moving across his body. He said that they had to try it first without the sound, so he didn't immediately peg the song as listening to. But as the minutes wore on, I got the hang of it and soon recognized a telltale drum beat from Back in Black, AC/DC. And in fact, his body recognized the beat before he could consciously identify the song. It goes to show that they are able to at least give something to these people that wouldn't be able to hear otherwise. But now you turn an art form that is inaccessible to something that is at least analogous with the experience. So check it out. That's and again, that from Impossible Labs. I'm sure that not Impossible Labs. I'm sure that we'll be hearing more about this kind of thing. But hey, there you go. And let's see. How about we talk about what's a good fun story? All right, we can do this one. No. All right, this one's a bit different. So it's not strictly technology. Write your hate mail to live@computeramerica.com. But hey, pretty interesting. Sick ants. You think about work days. You think about your boss. You are out of work days. You've already used all 5 of them or all 10 of them. You crazy, crazy person for wanting 10 days off a year. How could you? Well, and then you are forced to come into the workplace and you are going to infect everyone. You know it. Your coworkers know it. Everyone doesn't like the situation. You minimize it, but lo and behold, you all have to use the same doorknob, and turns out people get sick. Not just a problem for people, also a problem for animals, even the simplest, most robotic kind of animals. Here we have a story about ants. And while they don't want to infect the colony, they still actually do go into work, but with a twist, saying that sick ants stay away from the kids. They stay out at work to protect everyone in the nest from infection. That's right. So we'll buzz through this one really quick, and then we will move on to, I think we're going to talk about Apple here in a second. But ants are the poster child for this branch of science. They said that each ant has a job, and each ant sticks to its job. The foragers forage, the workers work, and the nurses nurse. And, of course, the queen procreates. It has been assumed that the strict segregation of ant society into age and task groups could help prevent epidemics, but this assumption had never been tested. Finally, a group of scientists got together and figured out how to do the experiment using 22 colonies of a common variety black garden ant, so the one that you go out and find yourself. They said that essentially the scientists hailed from various departments and various universities, and they labeled each ant in each colony with what looked like a paper QR code taped to his thorax. So they gave him, little tramp stamps, and labeled each ant in the colony, and they used video tracking to follow individual ants, monitoring all of the physical contacts among them. And as predicted, the structure of the colonies inhibited the transmission of pathogens. Here's the cool part, though. They said that not only did the entire network function to limit disease transmission, but individual ants did as well. Those most likely to pick up an infection are the foragers, since the nest is kept, of course, clean by the workers. Forager ants have fewer connections within the network and are markedly segregated from the queen and the younger nurses. So let's see. So the scientists randomly infected 10% of the colony's foragers with spores of a fungal ant pathogen. And they said that only 11 of the colonies got infected. 10% of the foragers from the 11 were exposed to a sham solution. And after giving the foragers a day to recover from their treatment, the researchers, of course, assayed the pathogen loads across all the ants in the colony to reveal the contact network as spores are transferred. The point is, like the article said, they limited the contact. Any forager who ended up with one of these pathogens, the ants were able to self-diagnose, say, hey, I'm not feeling too good. They stayed away from the colony. They kept doing their job. They kept foraging, but instead of bringing it back, they simply went on and instead of bringing it back to the colony, they stayed out and kept foraging and foraging until the ants died. There you go. But hey, at least the queen, the young, and everyone else was still alive. Sorry, not a happy ending for those particular ants, but it does show, hey, they lived. Pretty cool. I like that one. All right, more into technology. I hear you out there. More into tech, and why don't we talk about this one and then Apple? I lied. U.S. Postal Service. They come a long way since ponies. But they have a problem. Just happened today. If you are a user of the U.S. Postal Service, then you may have been leaked. At least your information has been leaked. So to figure out what was leaked and more, figure it out here. But a broken U.S. Postal Service API. So an API is used to take services from the U.S. Postal Service and integrate them into other services. So essentially, the Postal Service will put out an API so that others can develop, let's say, in-app tracking of your parcels as they go through the U.S. Postal Service. Very simple. They said that they exposed more than 60 million users by allowing a researcher to pull millions of rows of data by sending wildcard requests to the server. The resulting security hole has been patched after repeated requests to the U.S. Postal Service. And they said that it allows you to view your mail before it arrives to your home and offered an API to allow users to connect their mail to specialized services like CRMs. And the anonymous researcher showed that the service accepted wildcards for many searches, allowing any user to see any other users on the site. They said that the U.S. Postal Service told Krebs that it had investigated the data exposure and that the computer networks are constantly under attack from criminals trying to exploit the vulnerabilities. And they said that similar to other companies, the Postal Service Information Security Program and the Inspection Services uses industry best practice to constantly monitor network for suspicious activity. Krebs also reported that the identity thieves are misusing the service to see what mail is arriving at users' homes on which days, which then allow them to, of course, grab the packages because they're expecting them. Just as you would expect a package to be there by 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Well, turns out criminals can see when it's coming and go pick up the packages themselves instead of you. That's what they were essentially trying to use it for. So it kept using the term wildcard. It was wildcard request. I'm thinking that has to do with just essentially throwing random bits of information out there. Maybe maybe someone's address, maybe someone's user account that they were able to get their hands on, someone's name, and of course they would return verifiable information. Certainly a problem, and I hope that they have it all sealed up. They didn't say so, but they said that they are further investigating. That's about how far they've taken it. Now, of course, let's see. So that leaves us with, our next story. Let's talk about Apple and Microsoft. The biggest rivalry in tech for a number of years. Microsoft used to be so utterly dominant and Apple used to be the cool kids club. And then Apple surpassed. They made very, very nice cell phones. And I guess Microsoft just couldn't compete. Well, now here we have it. We are looking at Microsoft actually has caught up to Apple in market value. And as long as you put any kind of credence into what market value actually means for for a company, it means that, hey, Microsoft has indeed shown that they're trying to fight back against they're trying to fight back against what it is Apple has done with their operating system, with their services, and with their products. Hey, it's nice to see them actually competing. So shares of the iPhone maker have dropped sharply, and this is really what a lot of it has to do, is that the recent declines, we talked about it last Wednesday, tech stocks have been taking a beating in the stock market, of course, which of course has led to Apple losing about $300 billion in market capitalization from the company. And if you don't remember, Apple was the first company in the world, I think. Amazon was like a month behind it, but Apple was the first company in the world to be valued at over $1 trillion. And lo and behold, tech stocks take a slump, and now they have lost $300 billion. Quite a lot, but here we are. They said that the slump ultimately took the company's market cap below that of Microsoft on Monday, which is today. The first time in more than 8 years that Microsoft was worth more by this metric. It was also the first time since 2013 that any company topped it, ever since Apple eclipsed ExxonMobil in size. So, when we talk about market size and market share, ExxonMobil used to be the king, and then Apple, and then no one's been able to really take that metric away from Apple. I'm sure that Amazon has gotten pretty close, if not beat it. But to see Microsoft to be the one to dethrone Apple, very, very cool. So the numbers here, very simply, Apple had a market value of about $823 billion. By the way, sometimes I feel like I throw these numbers out and I myself really don't understand them, but $823 billion is a lot of money. But Microsoft stood at $823 billion, but instead of being $660 million, they had $900 million. There you go, Microsoft win. They said that shares of Apple rose about 0.9%, erasing an earlier decline, while Microsoft climbed 3.2% as these stocks start to rebound. They said that Microsoft isn't immune to weakness in the technology sector, although it has held up much better, falling about 8% from its own all-time high. And let's see, NASA's entire budget for 2017 was less than $20 billion. Yeah, I mean, towards the beginning of the show, for anyone out there who wasn't listening to the beginning, we talked about how NASA was able to land their InSight lander, which is going to be measuring seismic activity within Mars. I think the entire budget for that mission was something like 20 million or like 9 million or something like that. It was really not that much money, compared to the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And that's putting, the InSight cost was only about 200 million. So thank you for it. $200 million. And that's putting very sensitive scientific equipment on a different planet. And now we're talking about a company that makes phones and an operating system. And they have access to about $1 trillion, thousands more than what it takes to do that kind of work. Really, these numbers are incredible, but hey. So while Apple analysts see it transitioning to a business model based more on the services than the unit sales being of its hardware, they said that there could be more pain ahead for the stock, which could dethrone it from the number one spot in a more decisive fashion. And according to Rich Ross, a technical analyst, they said that the Apple stock has another 18% down. Whatever, that's all hokum. But the point is, Apple has slid from its high hill, and it shows that Microsoft is, if nothing else, doing things that investors like. Personally, I'm pretty happy with Windows 10. As long as you get the settings right, it's a very, very solid operating system. And Microsoft, much like Amazon, is really betting on cloud computing. And hey, they're doing a good job of that as well with the Microsoft Azure cloud. So there you go. There's that one. Let's see. Why we have time for just one more story. How about this silly one? So you may have heard of them. A small company called LG. They used to make a lot of different phones. It's and you know, they still do. They still do make a lot of phones. Very, very cool. But at the same time, I think we are getting a little crazy. Getting a little crazy. So this is, of course, just speculation because it's simply a patent. A patent can be patented without any need to actually produce on said patent. But it is the first step on actually creating, a device. You know, the very first steps of creating something like this are going to be make the patent. And the patent I'm talking about in particular, LG patent hints at a phone with 16 camera lenses. And in fact, they are taking out the screen, they are changing the form factor, and they are simply coming out with a camera. I'm joking. That's, of course, a joke. No, this is going to be for a smartphone. Check that out. Yeah. So they said that the Huawei Mate 20 Pro has 3 cameras, and the Samsung Galaxy S10 is rumored to have 6. Yes, we reported on that. 6 different camera lenses. But LG Electronics could make those offerings look stingy. Where the South Korean company, which the V40 Thin Q has 5 cameras, so don't think that they aren't for multiple cameras in a single phone, might be working on a camera with as many as 16 different lenses. Insane. The lenses would arrange in a 4x4 matrix, which with each placed at a certain curvature to allow it to take multi-perspective photos to combine them to create the desired shot. So what this can mean, actually, let's see. So as noted by Let's Go Digital, which reported on the patent over the weekend, you'd be able to trace around someone's head with your finger and alter the angle using one of the other perspectives. Makes sense. Until you found the most flattering. So imagine you take a selfie or you take someone's, you take a picture of someone's face head on. And let's say you have cameras that are pointed a little bit off to the left, a little bit off to the right, a little bit below the subject, above the subject, and you're able to, kind of use your fingers and manipulate a person's face or the photo itself as if it were in 3 dimensions. And you decide that, hey, this particular day, your left side is your good side, and a little bit up and a little bit to the left with the right lighting. And that photo looks way better than just simply a head-on like you would with a single lens camera. That's going to be possible. They said that the phone's facial recognition would also find shots of the person so that you could replace their head with one from a photo where they look their best. All right, that was a little weird. But the cameras would be connected to a mirror that would allow you to take selfies with those, since the front camera wouldn't produce images of the same quality. So, anyone out there who knows about cameras knows that mirrors, hey, they've been using cameras for a long time. But the patent titled "Mobile Terminal and Control Method for the Mobile Terminal" also notes that the proposed phone could include a display and speakers on the back of the phone, the latter allowing it to create stereo sound. So, very interesting now that the back of the phone, quote unquote, would have the screen, and the front of the phone, quote unquote, would have all of these cameras embedded within them. I mean, I'm kind of for it. There's no doubt about it that mobile phones have definitely brought about a revolution in what we think about taking photos. Either shooting video or taking photos, sharing it on social media. What it means to document someone's life has definitely been changed. And some people use their phones strictly as a way to document their life. Hey, maybe some people would be totally for 16 camera lenses built into a single phone. Personally, I think I look horrible with one, so hey, I don't know if 16 is going to make that any better. Everyone, The music means that we're just about done for the show today. Thank you in the chat room for joining us. Thank you out there listening on the podcast for joining us. And of course, everyone on the IRN radio network. Thank you for tuning into Computer America. If you miss any part of the show, computeramerica.com, I'm going to send you there. That will be the best place to find our show any day of the week, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. No more breaks, so no more missed shows until hopefully the Christmas break. And I should start to say that I believe we're working until through Friday, and then December, for this year, for this calendar year, December 21st will be our last show until we come back. I believe we'll be back January 1st. We'll probably be back January 1st or 2nd, Tuesday or Wednesday. But everyone, have a great day. Thank you. Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.